20, 30 millimeter mines. Wieners with special sauce. What? Really, Navy? Really? Hey, everybody. Dave here from the Squirrel Hole. Welcome to episode 5. I have got this far without killing my staff. It's amazing. All right, we're going to talk about. No high five needed there. All right, so we're going to talk about a few things here. A couple of them are going to be munitions and then some other stuff. Okay, so let's get right to the hole. All right, and today the hole is about 20 to 30 millimeters. And what I'm saying about is this. Currently, Ukraine is shooting down drones and throwing all sorts of lead in the air with machine guns, 50 cal up to, the U.S. 50 cal to the Soviet era machine guns, 12 millimeter and all that. So the problem about these rounds is gravity works, okay? They're not proximity fused. They don't do anything like that. Not self-destructing. So once you fire all this lead up into the sky, guess what? It's coming down. And a lot of people get hurt and things get damaged. So in the last few months, you're starting to see 30 millimeter and 20 millimeter rounds getting sent to Ukraine along with the cannons that shoot them. This is important because of this. And if you're not military, you don't understand this, and that's why I'm trying to help. These are self-destructing rounds. You fire them in the sky, they'll burn until a tracer burnout happens, and then they'll explode. That way, two things happen. You get closer to the target, it creates shrapnel around the target and brings it down faster, or when it goes up and gets expended, the rounds don't come down on the population or the city, and you just get very small fragments instead of full rounds like this full of explosive. Because the thing is, this is a 40 millimeter Bofors round. That right there can carry a lot of boom. Okay, so you don't want stuff like this landing on the city. You want self-destructing rounds. That's why you don't want to use armor-piercing rounds and things like that up in the sky, because they will come down, they will kill people. All right. Next item up for bid is the PMM2, okay? It's got 240 grams, that'd be a big landmine, 240 grams of high explosive. You can put an anti-handling device on this, and Russian soldiers are issued this all over the place. The problem with these things are they're nasty, they're meant to really mess you up, and they'll take a leg off. And they last a long time. The real big problem is if you see one, you see a lot of them. Wow. Because it'll buff out. There are a lot of these out there. Russians are putting them everywhere. I've seen them in kindergartens. I've seen them in open fields. They will be there for the next 20, 30, 50 years. So Ukraine's going to keep finding these things. They're nasty, and the Russians need to pay for them putting out there. All right, next thing is Liberty Ukraine. Liberty Ukraine is a great organization, and you need to support them because they have been around since 2014, and they give stuff, or they get stuff to the troops. But in return, you're thinking, well, what do I get? Well, I got something really cool recently. And here it is. I got my name on a shell. This is actually one I already had. I know, I've got problems. But this is one I already had, and what happened was Liberty Ukraine actually told somebody over there, an artillery regiment, that I've donated a lot of stuff, which I did. And so what they did was they put my name on it, greetings from, or Dave Tomorrow sends greetings, and launched it at the Ukrainians. Launched it at the Russians. And that is a warm and fuzzy feeling, I'll tell you, when you see your name on a shell. So get with Liberty Ukraine, talk to Tanya. They can send your name over there along with whatever gift you give, and hopefully they'll put your name on a shell too and give it to the Russians. All right, and that's heavy. Okay. Next thing we're going to cover is how Ukraine has really given it to the Russians in the last few years. I'm not talking militarily, I'm talking figuratively. So here's one of the things that they've been doing. This is a Russian Soviet era, and they still use the same color, VDV beret, okay? Sky blue, they're the only ones that really use sky blue beret, and they're very proud of it, along with their blue and white stripy shirt, okay? So this is a very big thing in Russia and in the Soviet Union, because all the Soviet countries had the same, or when it was the Soviet Union, had the same color beret, okay? A few years ago, something happened. What happened? This happened, okay? Maroon. They changed all their berets to maroon for parachute and airborne and air assault forces. Got a new badge. It looks a lot like a Western European badge. And so this right here, just this little act right here, getting rid of the blue beret and going to the maroon, really enraged the Russians. Okay, and good. All right, last thing is numbers. And the map. We got to go back to the map. So, all right, we're back with the map. We're going to concentrate on the 1st Tank Army and the Eastern Military District and go through a couple things. Recently, a memo or a few papers were released that were top secret from the DOD. You know, people can hear that, right? They were released from the DOD on troop strength of the Russian army. Now, what's interesting about the Russian army is they're doing the same thing that the Germans did about midway through World War II. If you have a choice between taking your existing formations and filling them up with troops, or making new formations that are only half filled up, what you should do is fill up your existing formations. But that's not what the Russians are doing. They're actually making more and more units over here. So like with the 1st Guards Tank Army, they've got 160 battalions up there now, but they've only got 48,600 troops, which means they only have 303 soldiers per battalion on average. Now, normally they need to have up to 540 troops per battalion. So they're only about 2/3. Now, similar with the Eastern Military District, they're even in worse shape. Of the 29, or of the battalions that they have there, they only have 291 troops per battalion on average. So that just shows you they're building more units with fewer troops. That makes supply issues much harder to fix, and it makes command and control much harder. Okay, that's all I got for now. I'd appreciate any feedback you have according to remember, my complaint department is Katie tomorrow and she will be happy to answer any complaints that you have. Thanks so much. See you later.